Welcome in, builders. This week we are checking out Tir Nanog, Land of the Ever Young. These guys are a ton of fun. I'm actually recording late because I wanted to finish one of my test games because I was just having so much fun. I have started to finally get my head wrapped around glamour a little bit, and oh boy, glamour. Yeah, that's a thing. All right, let's check out Tir Nanog, starting with their lore. Tir Nanog is a blessed isle surrounded by whispering mists. It is home of the Tuatha, a highly magical race descended from the Numidians, who once warred with the Formidians. The Tuatha have made themselves lords and masters over the Furbog, a lesser race descended from the same Numidian ancestors. With the aid of the Furbog, the Tuatha attacked the Fomorian giants and almost succeeded where the Numidians failed, but eventually the Fomorians proved too powerful, and the Tuatha were driven back to their blessed isle. The Tuatha and their seedy descendants have turned to crafts, poetry, and magical arts, but some have chosen the path of war and have become warriors and generals of great renown. The Furbog, although inferior to the Tuatha, but still superior to ordinary men, compose much of the population and serve as farmers and lowly warriors. Our national features, our races, we actually have quite a few different people here. We have Tuatha, we have Sidi, we have Furbolg, and I don't know why they'd say we have illusions, but we use a lot of illusion magic. For our military, we have Furbog infantry, we have Sidi infantry, and Sacred Tuatha warriors. For magic, we are very strong in glamour. We are strong in nature, and we have a little bit of water, air, and earth. Our priests are of average skill. We have several priest level 2s and a decent lineup of sacreds, although not everyone for sure. For scales and blesses, we have +1 luck limit, +1 magic limit. Those are good scales to have boosted. For buildings, we have the standard forts of the age. For starting sites, we have Tir Nanog, which gives us our cap-only recruitments, along with 3 glamour gems. A second site, Magmoor, gives us 2 nature and 1 earth. So we have a pretty good spread of gem income, and we definitely like that, especially these 3 glamour gems. That is a very nice income for many things we would like to do. I'm going to mix it up this week, and we are going to check out our heroes next. We only have 1 hero. We have Long-Handed, which is, I guess you pronounce this Lou the Long-Handed. There's Lou, everybody. As far as heroes go, he is pretty good. A Holy 3, we have a lot of sacreds to bless, so a Holy 3 would definitely be appreciated. That also gives us a second throne claimer. He has Glamour 3, Nature 2, Air 2, and Fire 3. He is our only source of fire natively. He is the highest air that we get, and he is okay at the other 2. Along with those, he is fire resistant, he has a fire shield, he has glamour, he has awe, he's good at sieging, he can sail. It's our only source of sailing, I believe. He gives a supply bonus, he has 100% dark vision, he has a forge bonus, our only source of forge bonus. Spellsingers take more time to cast spells, but also take less fatigue. Spellsingers have no effect on divine spells. What that translates into is a spell that would normally take 1 round to cast, I believe takes a round and a half. But you also take 50% fatigue. So if you have good spells that cost 10, they now cost 5. If they cost 20, they're down to 10. You can spam some of your better spells for days as long as you're using the right casters. But you have to know it's slow. What that means is if you're trying to paint buffs on people, it's relatively hard because it's round 1.5 when your first spell goes off, and it's round 3 when your second spell goes off. So even on a hold, your people are already running away. So just note that you have to really be careful with your placement and have realistic expectations of what you're going to be able to buff them with, especially if you're trying to buff fast units that are going to zip away from the person trying to buff them. Going directly into our troops, we have Furbog troops for the bulk of our recruitable units. These are, I believe, identical to the Fomorian ones. We have the Furbog Militia. He is a militia unit. He is notable, I would say, for having 14 defense skill, 13 HP, and 11 strength. So as far as militias go, he's okay. Doesn't have a hat. Morale is only 9. I wouldn't get these guys unless it was an emergency and I was trying to hold up a fort or maybe siege a fort, but even to siege, I would rather something that can fight. We have Furbog Slingers. These guys, as far as slingers go, are actually all right. They don't have a shield, they don't have a hat, so they're not good at counter battering, but they do have 12 precision, which is rather high. It's rare you have things with higher than 12 on just a regular archer type troop. So their slings are actually pretty accurate at low ranges. But at far range, they're going to start getting that deviance, and it really stinks because a lot of our other troops are not wearing helmets, and some of our troops have glamours that can be popped by our friendly fire. So used with caution, I would say, for these guys. But in the right circumstances, that extra accuracy can really shine. And they do also carry around a dagger with an 11 attack if something does get to them. So they're not completely defenseless. Next up, we have the Furbog Warrior with Axe. 12 attack with 18 damage on a slashing weapon. No helmet, unfortunately. These guys are okay. When would I use them? If I needed 18 slashing damage for some reason. Next up, and the warrior I would recruit if I had to get a Furbog, would be this guy, Furbog Warrior with Spear and Javelin. We keep that 12 precision, and we have 11 strength. So at range 11, 12 precision is pretty good, actually. These guys are pretty accurate with their javelin throwing, and they mix in well with your other troops who have javelins, just to keep everyone kind of together and in relative order of a line. They don't have a helmet still, which is unfortunate. These guys are usable. Of note, they need 50% more recruitment points than they do resources, and gold between the two, so you're leaning a little bit more towards needing recruitment. Next up, you have the Seed Warrior. These are way better because they have Glamour. Glamour is so ridiculously good for the survivability of your troops. In addition to that, they also have Stealthy, and they're really stealthy at 65 for just a troop that you have. They do have Iron Vulnerability, so if you take damage from an iron weapon, you take extra damage from it. So just note that there's a decent amount of troops that do have iron in the early age, although it is not everybody yet. Of note also, he's smart enough to put on a hat. So by far, far and away, a much more stiff troop to keep a line together. But you're paying for it. We go up to 25 gold each, 12 resources, and 18 recruitment points. That being said, for this line with also Force Survival and Dark Vision, which our Furbogs do not have, I would say this is well worth it. 13 attack on your line troops is pretty good. Against mediocre troops, you will outdo them quite well. If you're getting repels, 13 really helps get repels on that. 15 damage on a pierce is not bad. We actually throw one further because we're stronger than a Furbog, but we keep that 12 precision. I like these troops a lot. This is what I would recruit outside of my capital, or to fill out my capital recruitment. Finally, we have our Sacred, the Tuatha Warrior. Remember on Formoria how I kept saying those troops were so great, but I wish that they were sacred? Here you are! It's the exact same troop, but sacred! The Tuatha Warrior is a sacred, stealthy, glamour, iron vulnerability, force survival with dark vision, sacred troop. They're wielding the golden spear and golden shield seen on some of these Celtic nations in this earlier age. Very, very nice. They do cost 40 gold, 22 resources, 22 recruitment points. So about double gold compared to resources and recruitment. And what this tells me is I probably would want my order and production scales to be equal. Whatever I take in one, I probably want to take in the other just to ensure that I can get these guys out. I like these a lot. Even without a bless, they are similar to what Formoria had, where I was able to expand using, about 15 of these guys. And with a bless, these guys just skyrocket. Have a hat. They have a great shield. 17 defense is nothing to snuff at, especially backed up by some glamour. They have javelins. They have a magic weapon. These guys are great. I really like these guys. You are definitely going to want to consider a bless for them. However, as you'll see, we have a lot of considerations on what we're going to take for our bless. So there's going to be a little bit of push and pull on what we decide to do. Next up, let's take a look at our leadership lineup. We have a scout for 35 gold, 12 resources, 1 recruitment. He is a 50 stealth. Unfortunately, it's a Furbog and not a seed. Those would be way better as scouts because they would have glamour, although you would pay for it. So This is nowhere near as painful as picking up, say, a giant scout like we had to do last week with Niflheim. However, you have a lot of competition for recruitment in your forts, so you would still prefer to find an indie to use. That being said, this is fine. It's a usable scout. Next up, we have the Furbog Champion. I don't like this guy. He only has 75 leadership, so you're not getting formations, and he doesn't have glamour or any magic gear. He's not wearing a helmet. I would never recruit this guy. If I was going to get something to do what he could do, I would just get an indie commander to go build a fort or ferry around troops if I had to. So I would stay away from this guy. I guess his one benefit, he has some javelins, so even when he's staying behind troops, he can at least throw a couple javelins. It's better than some commanders have. Other than that, I don't like this guy. Next up, let's talk about the Seed Champion, because this is your good leader. He is 100 leadership. He has a hat on. He is using the magic spear, but not a magic shield. He has a couple javelins, and he is a seed, so he has the better precision. He goes up to 13 with 12 range, so he is quite precise with that. In addition, he is a priest level 1, and he is sacred. He has the spell singer, so you get less fatigue, but your spells take longer to cast. And he comes in at Nature 1, Glamour 1. Great pathing, actually. I was shocked how good these guys were because I was paying really close attention to glamour spells this run. This means Barkskin, Eagle Eyes. You can get both of those quite easily in Alteration, which you're going to want to go up anyways. And then Glamour 1 actually has a lot of decent close line combat supporting spells. So we'll look at that when we get to Magic, but Glamour 1 is a very usable path, and combining that with the Nature for some solid defense on him, I like this guy quite a bit. With Barkskin, his protection, I don't remember what it is off the top of my head, but it's probably like 14-ish, I would say. So quite good, actually. And with the Spellslinger, he can really pump spells just forever because they're pretty darn cheap for some of these little ones, and at half fatigue, he is great at doing that. So I like this guy quite a bit. I would definitely get him. Having a 15 attack on a golden sword is nice. I may have said that was a spear, but this is a sword. Unfortunately, it's not a spear. That would actually be preferable, but still, magic weapon's better than nothing, so I quite like this guy. Next up, let's look at our Furbog Druid. This is a non-sacred druid. He is our most efficient researcher. He only costs 95 gold, you get 9 research, and his upkeep is 75 per year. We come in with a guaranteed air and one of water, earth, nature, and glamour. For affordable mages, he is your guy who can do water and earth searching, and I would definitely want to get out and do that. Ideally, you would want a little bit of water in case you need a water-breathing ring, or maybe you want to make a flask of holy water to bless your thugs that we're going to look at, which would free up a script slot, or if you need to go underwater, that lets you be able to do that. Quite good. And the earth, while not as good, the earth can be very valuable. Earth gems are one of the most valuable gems in my opinion. It's definitely up there with death gems, I would say, by my reckoning. Very, very good. So you want to get out there and get searching for those. Next up, we have some different flavors. We have the... Oh, I'm going to slaughter this one. I know this is Celtic and I can't pronounce it. Bebhuan Sad. That's horrifically wrong. My apologies. This is our assassin. And she can be a little hit and miss. Against things she's good at killing, she is untouchable. She will slaughter everybody. Against things that she's not good at killing, she is very bad at not killing. So Glamour 2 is great on an assassin. You can throw out some sort of illusionary summon right away to buy yourself some time to get other things up and running, like body displacement, blur, ethereal swords, aura of bewilderment, all kinds of things that you can get off there. She's quite good at that. She's 85 stealth, so she's very stealthy. She has high glamour. She does have iron vulnerability, so that is a downside. She has dark vision, which is great for assassins because you want those night fights, ideally. Assassin 1, so just basic assassin, and Spellsinger. So she can get all those buffs out and not fall asleep, which is very important. Very good. And quite affordable. 200 gold for a mage level 2 assassin that's very high stealth with glamour. only 2 recruitment points, and she's not cap only. Quite good. I like her quite a bit. If you're going to give her some gear, I would keep it very cheap unless you know exactly what you're doing. Her attack is Drain Life, which is excellent. It's a magic attack. It'll help heal you. It'll lower your fatigue when it hits, but it's length 0, which can be a bit of a pain. Ideal things, maybe a handful of acorns, maybe a barkskin amulet. Those would up her survivability quite a bit. If I was going to do something other than those, I would probably look to give her some kind of weapon. A leaf blade for profuse bleeding is pretty good. If you have some death magic, some of the death blades are pretty good. The glamour ones can be decent. So I would keep it very cheap, though. You don't want to super invest in this, and especially because there's certain things that she just does not do well against. Things that are going to spam skeletons at her are actually really, really bad, because the skeletons are immune to a lot of her trickery stuff, and they use iron weapons, which is one of her vulnerabilities. So, ironically, the lowly skelly spammer she really struggles against. Next up, we have the Bin CD. These are okay. I'm not in love with these ones. If you want to guarantee yourself a water mage to go out searching, you could do this, but you're going to want to send a high glamour mage out anyways, who is going to have high nature, so you'd literally be spending a lot more gold than a druid for a water 1 search, most likely. I mean, I guess you could wait and try to get a water 2, or maybe get the water earth double up to make it easier. I don't know. I didn't get many of these in most of my games. They're kind of in a weird, awkward spot. That being said, they get air, water, earth, nature, and glamour, which are fine rolls. It's quite a random mage, which I'm not in love with, but there's plenty of things you can cast with these paths. Moss Body, you can, with Twilight up, this automatically goes up to at least a 2, so you can get the buffs out. They're okay, but I never found myself recruiting these, because I could recruit a Seed Lord. We are in the we're so back phase when it comes to Elven Cavalry, at least this guy. I was very worried that this was going to be the same as with Helheim, and the mounts were going to let me down, and the mounts did let me down some, but with the Bless I took, they were actually surprisingly not bad. Not slow to recruit, not cap only. 375 is relatively pricey, but you get a Nature 1, Glamour 2 guaranteed. There's no random here. And a Priest level 2. So if you need to bless troops, this guy's much better at it than our Holy 1 choices. And it's noticeably better at getting the bless out. That also gives us Summon of Courage if you need it. I didn't have a lot of morale problems, but when you need it, you need it. He comes in with non-magical shield, but with a magical golden lance. He has 12 precision, so he's quite accurate. He's got 15 HP, which is relatively low, but 20 defense. Now, note, some of that's coming in from having his shield and his mount, but still. 10 protection, but we can easily cast Barkskin on ourselves and buff that up to, I think he goes to 15, I want to say, off the top of my head. And he's got the Spell Slinger, so when he's doing buff cycles, he's not going to get himself too tired. These guys were probably my MVPs of the game behind us here. I'm going to pop out of units, and let me see if I can find somebody who's running the script I was using. That was set up for a different type of battle. Okay, so normally when they're out thugging, you need to have a bless at the top of this, and you would drop off either luck or proud steed. But with this cycle of buffs, and none of this is high level stuff. This is like Alt 3, I think. This is Enchant 3. This is Evocation 3. This is Thermacharge 1, I want to say, and Proud Seeds from, I think, Enchant 2-ish? This is very low investment. Displaced Body makes these guys incredibly hard to hit. You get a minus 10 on the first attack and then a minus 5 afterwards if you don't counter it. Shroud of Bewilderment is absolutely dominatingly strong. We'll talk about this when we get to magic, but Ephemeral Swords gives you a little bit more killiness, and then some various defensive stuff below. I was very impressed with these guys and their ability to thug. Very, very impressed. And I was running them with basically no gear, and later on, I gave them an Amulet of Barkskin just to free up a buff cycle and make sure I got it off. Very strong, non-cap only, thug/mage. Next up, you have your Re. I only grabbed a couple of these. I'm not super impressed with these guys. Slowly recruit, cap only, 530 gold. They're going to compete with our other cap only mage, who I like better. These guys can roll air, water, earth, nature, glamour, but most of your buff cycles already eaten up by glamour too. So I was only able to squeak in one maybe non-glamour buff. So you're looking at either bark skin or quickness or breath of winter. It gives you a little bit of variability, but for 530 gold with slow to recruit cap only, I don't think this guy's the winner. He does have the golden shield, which is magic, so that's nice. He does have the magic lance, but he has the same horse as the other guy. It's no better, and that's what's going to let him down more so. Finally, we have the Tuatha Sorceress. Very strong cap only recruit here. She comes in at Nature 2, Glam 4, with Air, Water, Earth, Nature at 100%, and the same plus Glamour 10%. These are very, very nice. Glamour 4 lets you put up Twilight very easily, and if you need it for some reason, you could even go up to Darkness or Nightfall from there, which is Darkness. She can throw out some of the big AoE Glamour stuff. She can summon in some of the big multi-summon Glamour troops. Very, very nice. Very, very nice. She is slow to recruit. She is cap only. But I think she is well worth it over the Re. I would definitely get her once I can start getting cap-only mages on auto-recruit. She is 65 stealth. She has the glamour. Same basic other things. She does have true sight. And she's still a spell singer. Quite strong. Quite strong. Your battlefield mage for sure. Next, let's look at our summons. We only have one summon. This comes in at, I want to say it's Conj 3. Let me just double check myself here. Yep, Conj 3. You get 10 of them for 5 glamour gems. Now, no, remember, we have 3 glamour gem, just native income. And we have a very high glamour mage to go out and search for sites. Now, unfortunately, it doesn't scale with skill. That would be absolutely ridiculous if it did. It only takes a glamour 2 mage to cast, which means, generally speaking, I'm going to be using Seed Lords to do that. These guys make great summoners for them, and the hounds have pretty good map move, so they almost act like cavalry. These guys can lead and bless them. Very, very, very nice. Okay, so the next question is, are they as good as the Bargheists of Formoria? And with magic, I'm going to put that on screen here. And the short answer is, kinda. I think the Bargheists are definitely stronger. They hit for an extra damage. They have poison on their attack. You get more of them per summon, but you have to go higher into Conjuration, which slows them down a lot. They cost death gems, which Formoria has many, many ways to spend death gems. And you're competing with Morgans and other things. Whereas here, there's some other glamour things we'd like, but nothing that's super high competitive. They're both sacred. This one does not have, as you can see, any type of power. So the Bargheist has the Dark Power 3, which is incredibly powerful underground, whereas all we have is Dark Vision. That all being said, though, I think you can't look at them in a vacuum against each other. Not only do Bargheists, they're a level higher, they use a more competitive gem. Who's going to summon your Bargheists? You have to use very expensive, probably cap-only mages because you need a Death 2 mage to summon them in. We can summon in Khusids anywhere. From just a anywhere normal recruit mage that we want anyways because he's our main thug. He's also their best leader. He's also their best buffer. I generally on this game had 2 of them on monthly summons, and I would just summon 20 of these a turn, and I used probably 400 or 500 of them this game. They were quite good. Now, they are going to be very dependent on what your bless is. Again, that's kind of that pull. You have glamour troops that want a certain kind of buff. You have these guys that want a certain kind of buff. And we have sacred mages that are very good. We have sacred thug/mages that are very good. We have sacred mediocre mage here. We have a sacred troop leader. We have quite a lot of people who would really like that bless. So you have to kind of figure out, what are you going to take that either is very powerful on one of these things or can apply to all of them. And we'll swing back around and look at pretenders and blesses at the end, but just keep that in mind there, that there's definitely a push and pull on what you want to do. Next up, who would we want to prophetize? This is a little bit hard. We start with a champion and a scout. As mentioned, I do not like this champion. I just do not like him. He doesn't have a hat. He's asking to die as a prophet. He's only map move 14 with no special types of map move. I don't like him at all. Okay, what would you do then? Can you get a Tuatha Sorceress or a Ree? Well, they're slow to recruit and they are stupid expensive at the beginning of the game. This would be like 2 turns of saving up and then 2 turns to recruit, and then you're finally getting a prophet. I think that's too slow. If your prophet dies and you're getting one later, yeah, it's probably going to be one of these two. But for me, the Seed Lord is the way to go here. At 26 map move, he is tied as our fastest mover. He is stealthy and has glamour, which is absolutely great on a prophet. He is quick, so if he loses a battle and tries to retreat, he will probably get away. He is sacred, so his mount can have some blessing to help keep it alive. He can move faster than your hounds, so he makes a great blesser for a group of hounds because he can do divine blessing and hit all of them easily. And that's very nice because the hounds, they definitely need to be blessed. They are not particularly good if you're not getting your blessing on them. And your line troops can be rather hard to get blessings on because we're not going to have a ton of mages, and our mages have other things that they'd like to cast too. So there's a pull on, do I cast more blessings? Do I use my scripts for other spells? Having this as your prophet kind of helps that out for at least one of your battles. Very, very nice. I would say he is your prophet. As for national items, we have one national item, the Shillelagh. It's interesting, if nothing else. It's a Glamour Nature 1, costs 3 Glamour, 2 Nature, so you can pump these out quite easily with your native income. It gives the user luck and a sprite as a retinue. It's okay. I mean, it's not super on the stats, but it at least does magic damage, I suppose. It comes in at lesser magical items, so at at construction 3, I don't know. I would have to have a specific reason that I was building these. Your thug chassis already have a magic spear, so you'd be trading out something that they're good at repelling with for this. I'm not seeing it. But maybe you're summoning in some other type of thug, or you have like an indie, like light thug type unit. Maybe, and then in that case, I could see giving them these, perhaps. I don't know. Not in love with these. We already mentioned our Sacred Hounds, which are absolutely amazing there. Let's look at magic just in general here. You have tons and tons of things that are really good for you to go for. I'm not going to talk about order of operations here. We'll talk about that on stream, but I just want to point out some spells. I think that it is very worthwhile to go up to Conjuration 3 very early. You have decent native glamour income, and being able to summon in, let's say 40 of your hounds can really help in a first war or clearing a really hard province or an easy throne. You can use these guys very, very early. Conjuration 3 is not hard to get to. Glamour 2, you don't have to rely on any luck. You can just recruit Glamour 2s to do it. I quite like these guys. On the way there, you'll get some other stuff. If you have something that has Earth 2, Earth power is always appreciated. Otherwise, there's not a ton here that you're particularly interested in early, but I think these guys are so good that they actually make the path. Next up, we have Alteration. Alteration is very good for you. You have the regular Alteration buffs of Nature and Earth, and water. But in addition, we have the glamour stuff. So early on, blurred body, pretty useful. If you have somebody that you want to buff, you could do early blur buffing, although that's not particularly great. The big one, I think, comes in here at 3. We can do moss body natively. So if you want to get a little of that out, not great access to it, but it happens. So that could be good. We also can do bark skin on some of our troops, although it's hard to do it when they're so small there. Displaced body, though, is absolutely amazing. Note it doesn't stack with blur, so you don't want to be double buffing those. But for only 10 fatigue, the first attack against you is at -10, and then it's at -5 after that. That makes your thugs incredibly hard to hit. Incredibly hard to hit. And it's not even high fatigue. Remember, we get half fatigue, so this is only 5 fatigue to buff. Very, very nice there. Continuing up in alteration, we have Swarm, which can be pretty nice. We have Nature 2 people. Can be really good just to get some extra chaff out, because sometimes I do find the lines are a little thin. We have good troops, but they're kind of expensive, so just some extra bugs out on the field can keep things busy for you. That can be pretty handy. We also like Twilight. We can easily cast this on a slow to recruit mage, or we even could just use 2 gems to cast it on a recruit anywhere mage. And this will give everybody -2 perception, unless they have dark vision or true sight. You get +1 to all glamour skill. Pretty good. Of note, it has to be daytime when you cast this. It can't be night, or it has no effect. It also seems to wear off. Like, I cast it in a battle, and about round 20, 25, it wore off. So it's not going to stay up forever, but most of your casting that's important will happen before round 25. So you get +1 glamour from this very cheaply, very easily. Quite good. If we go up higher, Mother Oak is a bit of a stretch for us, but you can roll a Nature 3 with a little bit of luck on your cap-only mage. Give her a Thistle Mace and empower her once. And there's your Mother Oak caster. I did that in this game. Towards the end, it wasn't really relevant, but I did it. This also gives us Nightfall. If instead of Twilight, we'd prefer to go over to Darkness. Note, we do have troops that have some dark vision, so that would definitely help us, whereas this will hurt other people more. And you also get Shadow Warriors, which is pretty good. It gives a area effect 20 blur effect, essentially. That's not bad. That finally makes blur a lot more interesting to me to paint on troops, because at size 20, I actually could cover some area. Next up, in Evo, early on, you get Bewitching Lights, which is surprisingly good. Your best troop leader that's non-cavalry can cast this quite easily. Remember, he's still is a spell singer, so it's only 10 fatigue. It's armor negating. It is magic resist, but you'll get it off some. And yeah, you'll see that stun. It's pretty noticeable. Warrior Illusions gives you something to summon out and spam. Ethereal Bolt is not terrible. But the big one here is at Evo 3, and that is both of these. Dance of Ephemeral Swords really helps your thugs out, because this gives you 3 extra attacks per round at no fatigue or anything to you. And for 5 fatigue, because remember, we're a spell singer, is a steal. I would put this later in my script because this is less important to what you want to do. So if you get interrupted, it's less painful, but very, very good. My thugs were noticeably better when I started using this. We also get Cloud of Dreamless Slumber. This can be a difficult one to cast, but we can do it natively. Air of Effect 3+ puts people to sleep. Pretty good. Pretty good. Going further, we have Ethereal Blast. This is what thrones like to hit you with that just decimates you. Air of Effect 4+, and it's not unusual that we have Glamour 4, 5, or even 6 mages. So the Air of Effect is huge. Damage is pretty high. And it's armor negating. So it doesn't matter if it's false damage if you kill them. So pretty good. Pretty dang good. You also get Ghost Wolves up here. So easily spammable chaff troop for you. As you go up higher, you can get False Horror, which are very spooky. These are hard to deal with for people who don't have magic weapons. They have a lot of fear. and that pairs very well up at 7 with Wailing Winds. This is the continuous fear one all over the battlefield. Very, very strong. This is hard to cast, but well worth thinking of a way to do it. We also get Shimmering Fields, which we can cast natively. This is devastating. Area of Effect 50 is huge, and it leaves a cloud. And we get a remote attack if that's something of interest. In this game, I didn't quite get here. As you see, I just won here, but that would have been my win condition if I didn't already win. Construction, you'll need to go up it for boosters, essentially. I got Alquills early. I found some air sites, and I spammed Alquills. And then I went up to 5 for some other boosters and some movement items. Plenty of things in construction that are useful to you. Next, we have Enchantment. Enchantment's another good one. False Fetters, actually pretty good. Magic resist negates, so if you're fighting people with low magic resist, this is very hard to get out of. And it's air effect 2+, so you can actually tie down quite a few people there. You also get True Sight here, so you can give your thugs the ability to ignore things that are trying to hide behind blur or whatever. It can be pretty helpful. Moving up, we have Proud Steed. This is a pretty decent buff for your casters if you are getting Bark Skin from an item. Defense skill, an extra 2 on your mount, extra morale, and extra magic resist. Not terrible. It's not terrible. Definitely the lowest priority, I would say, for buffing yourself, though. The big one here is Shroud of Bewilderment. I was greatly underestimating how good this is. They make an MR check or they're bewildered. If they're bewildered, they skip their action, they don't attack you, and their next action is a random one, which means they tend to either wander around or attack a random square. So I have combat logs where it's like round 10 and no one's actually gotten an attack off because I'm repelling, I have glamour, I have exceedingly high defense and penalties to their attack, I have a mount, which is also giving a chance that they're going to take the hit instead of me, who also has layered defenses on them. If it makes it through all of that, then they finally get bewildered. And if they're bewildered, if it fails, they are stunned and they do a random attack. So sometimes in certain troop comps, they would just kill each other while I just stood there. It was very satisfying. This is very strong. Another one that would be great, we don't have native access to this, but it would be worth thinking of a way to try to get it. Horrible Visage would give you Dread, which is essentially fear. Would be pretty darn nice. Fear would really help your thugs out. The helmet that gives you fear is one option that you could do. If you have a way to do this, this helps you out a ton. After that, it's less interesting. We can actually do Circumculum pretty well, although for 20 gems, I think I would rather have, what would that be, 40 dogs? I think I'd rather have 40 dogs than one mage that's kind of sort of not dying. So those are my basic thoughts. And Thaumaturgy. Thaumaturgy can be useful to get just level 1 early. It gives you personal luck and also opens up Fascination, which is a targeted stun. It's okay. I don't know. The personal luck was definitely useful on certain things, but it wasn't huge. I got this in this game because I had some lizard shamans and I wanted to get communions for them. Hence why I went this way. Beyond that, this is our other national spell, Gias. It's okay. Unfortunately, it's only one person. I wish it was Area of Effect 1. It's very precise. It's somewhat short range. We can easily cast it forever. If they fail their magic resist, then they essentially do random attacks against other targets. And they have to make a morale check to get out of it, which is hard for them to do, but I'm not in love with this one. Hence why I almost forgot to even talk about it. Not in love with this one. Okay, so let's bring all of that together. So we have a good troop line ranging from somewhat cheap but okay troops to somewhat expensive, very good troops. We have a very good Sacred that needs some blessing to kind of kick him up a notch. We have an efficient Researcher. We have a decent to good assassin. We have native scouts. We have a decent troop leader. We have recruitable anywhere thugs and good mage lineup. And we have a cap only strong mage. So overall, oh, and we have a national spell that summons in pretty decent troops. Pretty decent troops. So very good. I think having some scales would definitely be nice if you can afford them, but you're really going to feel that tug between going for higher bless and going for some scales. And that can be rather difficult to choose what you're going to do. Let me pop out and I will show you pretenders. Tir na Nog has an okay medley of choices here. We have some of the usual suspects in the Dominion 4 area. We have a decent selection of Titans, including the Son of the Sea. Could be relatively interesting. We have the classic Demi-Lich, of course, of course. We have some Blood, which, we don't have natively here. For our monsters, we have a pretty good medley, although I'm not in love with most of these choices here. I guess, not really in love with that. The Thrice-Horned Boar can be pretty decent. The Earth Serpent can be pretty decent. I don't like this guy particularly. Yeah, I don't think you need an Awake Expander. If I was gonna do it, maybe the Thrice-Horned Boar. Maybe. You're kind of locking yourself into hard skin there for him, though. I don't know about that. Maybe like, I don't know, larger hard skin and then enough nature. Make sure he could cast Personal Regen on himself. I don't know. Not in love with that. Down here we have the usual Dominion 1s, including a Great Sorceress. She does have good stealth and glamour. That is something of note. And Death Glamour's a decent pathing on her. I think you could go many ways here. We have high defense line troops that are not particularly killy. So I do feel like you need to give them a little oomph to help them kill. Our dogs need a little defense and a little offense to really oomph them. We have good casters who would like even just some reinvigoration, or a little bit of extra precision wouldn't be bad. Or we have a lot of magic resist spells, so Magic Pin would be good. I think you could go many, many different ways here. And let me show you the way I went. I will probably use this on stream because it was incredibly fun. First of all, design points left 0. It's been a while since I did that. I originally wanted to make this guy a different chassis, but this got to exactly 0 points, and that was very satisfying to me. I went dormant because we went pretty dang heavy. Now, even without a bless, we can still expand just fine. Those are the same troops, as I mentioned previously, that I used to expand in the Formoria game, and they did okay. But once he comes in, they really kick up a notch. I went with Fire Shield. Of note, at time of recording, we just had a patch that changed Fire Shield. So Fire Shield now procs on attack, not on hitting a unit. This is a very powerful change if you're using it on high defense troops, like, say, Glamour Tuatha troops. Now they don't have to hit me to get the proc of that. Was this super, super relevant? Not really in this game. But the Fire Shield works on my Tuatha warriors. It works pretty well on my doggos. And then I combine that with Ethereal. So now you have to get past a Repel. You have to get past a Mirror Image. You have to get past a Heavy Shield. You have to get past some very high defense. You have to get past some okay protection. And then I'm Ethereal. And even if you have magic weapons, the other things back up the troops okay. Whereas for the dogs, they really appreciate being ethereal. They are not particularly sturdy things, and they're not particularly killy, so they need some time to sit in combat and grind away. And the Fire Shield helps them with that too. If you can get them to attack rear, which I often could, they're very, very fast troops. Having some ethereal Fire Shields in the back line, even if they didn't get kills, they were just annoying to try to get rid of. And they usually, I don't think I ever saw them retreat. They were up there fighting the whole time. Ethereal's good on our thugs, and it applies to our mounts. So the big weakness of Elf Cavalry is their mount. We're using Fey horses. 4 protection, 18 defense. You're going to get hit. Arrows are going to hit you. You're going to have just a million things in melee trying to hit you. Having Ethereal on top of this means he is much, much less likely. He gets the glamour too. He is much less likely to get hit and killed. I did lose some, and more often than not, if I lost the mount, the rider ended up dying because he loses a bunch of his defense that he is getting from skilled rider. But it was very doable. I didn't hate it. So the Ethereal helps there. Fire Shield on Thugs is always nice. That gives you some protection against things like Swarm or Skelly Spam, just bogging you down forever. So I thought that was pretty good. I quite enjoyed this Bless. And I didn't break the bank for it. We still ended up with 5 Dominion, so I could get a Sacred Commander and 4 Sacreds, or 5 Sacreds if I was doing a slow to recruit every other turn. I did have to go with a little bit of Sloth and Turmoil. I didn't love that, but it wasn't the worst thing ever. It was okay. I had to pay for it somehow, so I went with 1 heat. It was whatever. Unfortunately, I could not make use of the Fortune or the Magic 3. I had to go to 2 for Ethereal. If I wasn't taking Ethereal, I would probably still go here. I think, like, growth is always great, right? Having Fortune is always great. Having Magic is great. So I think I would lean more into these scales if I wasn't doing this, but these were totally usable. I didn't suffer horrendously. Now, would more money be better? Yes, more money would definitely be better. We have, well, not the most expensive things. We would love to recruit these in every fort. Easy thugs, easy hound summons. They're okay at researching if they have to just skip a turn for some reason. They're good at getting our blessing out. They have plenty of spells to cast, but they're 375 gold each. So in this game, I got my cap circle relatively early. I used hounds to help me take an early throne. So this was fort number 2. So that must have been about turn 14-ish. I had done a little bit of expanding over here and up here, and then we combined the 2 groups to come over here. I got this up, and then I got this up, and then I took this throne and got this up. So these were my core 4 for most of the game. And yeah, there were turns where if I was building infrastructure, I had to cut back on recruitment. But overall, I was almost every turn getting a mage from the capital. I was recruiting my throne mages here. I had crystal mages every turn. I got researchers mainly over here, and I got the seed lords over here most turns. In addition, I was pumping out sacreds and the CD warriors most turns. So it was not terrible. It was not terrible. It was definitely playable. And I was able to get a Ring of Water Breathing, which helped me push some people back out of the water. I ended up fighting for Moria, so that was kind of interesting. Then I had to fight Arcacephali, and as you can see, I destroyed them. No one was underground near me, so I took underground, and having things that had dark vision made this relatively painless. By the time I was done with the expansion army that went down here, it was pretty beaten up. There were some cavemen that really clobbered me, but I did it. We made it through. So, very happy with the troop lineup. They're excellent. They take buffs really well. Protection buffs, extra blur buffs. They love all of that stuff. Quite good. I enjoyed that. And the blessing really was the cherry on top, because it really made those hounds excellent. Unfortunately, I don't have a battle here to show you, but Ethereal plus the Fire Shield made the hounds very usable, and it made the line guys pretty killy against non-elite stuff. And even against elite stuff, the things that didn't have magic weapons, while the Fire Shields weren't particularly good, the Ethereal really made them a difficult line to deal with. Those are my thoughts on Tir na Nog. A very fun nation, and I feel like after playing them a couple times in the last week, I finally started to get behind Glamour, and Glamour is excellent, especially if you have Glamour 2. Glamour 2 is really where it kicks off, because what that will let you do is easily get yourself up to Twilight. It'll cost you 2 Glamour gems to cast, and then all of your Glamour 2s become Glamour 3s. And that is perfectly fine pathing for combat. So I think on nations, I'm going to value Glamour 1 and Glamour 2 pretty high. Glamour 1 is just a really nice, just close support, and Glamour 2 just tons of summoning, tons of offensive magic. Excellent. Very, very good. Let me know if you guys have tried different blesses or maybe an awake expander. Maybe I'm undervaluing those. You know, I tend to not play those overly much. I tend to prefer other things, but very, very fun. I think you could go with almost anything because you have 3 different sacred things that kind of want similar but different things. I could totally see taking a mage bless. You take some reinvigoration, take maybe a little bit of extra precision, or maybe, I mean, they're pretty good even without that. Maybe you could take, I don't know, a protection buff on top of that. Maybe reinvigoration and ethereal, because all your other troops would love that. Or maybe you go more in on the line troops and try to get them, I don't know, weapon skill or quickness. Quickness is pretty good because remember, with quickness, it gives attack and defense. And so for your thugs would like that extra defense and attack. Makes them very, very good repellers. So I think there's a lot of different ways you could go on that blessing. All right, leave your comments about that down below. If you've enjoyed this and made it this far, please leave a like. And if you've watched a few of my videos, hopefully I've earned your subscription. And if you haven't, maybe this is the video that you're going to click that for me. I will see people on stream. We are still at the regular time, which is Fridays at 6 Pacific time for me. And it's going to be a fun one. I'm looking forward to it. The good boys are back in town. I'm very excited for that. All right, builders, I will see you then. Go out and build something cool. Take care.